Hey everyone. So if you're interested in learning how to paint atmosphere in distance, check out this video. So what I want you to notice first is, see those dark marks at the bottom of the painting there? Those little blacks? That's generally the first thing you're going to want to do when you're trying to paint atmosphere in distance is put in, it's called keying in, but you want to put a few darks in the landscape section so that you know what value to make the sky. If you don't put those darks in and you don't key the painting in properly and you just start with the sky, there's a good chance you'll paint the sky way too dark. I even think that I did paint the sky too dark here despite keying it in. So had I not put those marks in, I probably would have painted it even more dark. And generally from there, if you notice and look at my palette, you'll see that I'm painting in this huge pool. Right? It's called pool painting, and it's what I teach at my Patreon. And with pool painting, you start with the sky and you mix a big pool up. And then in order to bring the distance forward, you adjust the pool. So you add paint to the pool and you shift it. So in this case, I'll add a little bit of blue and red into that pool, which already had a little bit of yellow, so all three primary colors, and I'll create kind of a bluish gray for the really distant hills that basically disappear right into the atmosphere. And then with each mountain that comes forward, I add more blue and more red because everything gets redder as we come forward through atmospheric perspective. I'm sorry, not redder, more yellow peeks through. If you've ever seen a mountain or a snow from really far away, it'll look pink. And this is because red travels the farthest distance through atmosphere. It's not dissipated by air particles as much as yellow and other colors in the spectrum. So yeah, anyway, you'll see snow-capped peaks and you'll see anything that's white from like 10 miles away will have a pinkish tinge to it. But then everything, so it's weird when you talk about distance being cooler, it all depends on how you define cooler. It is cooler in general than the foreground. You're not going to get all that yellow end of the spectrum and everything mixed with the red that's going to make things, appear warmer. So anyway, in general, everything gets more red and yellow as you come forward. So I'm keying in the closest of the mountains to the rocky portion of the overlook that I'm painting from. So the reason I come all the way down to do that is because I want to make sure, see that black mark, the tree in the lower right corner? It's just a black mark for now. I came down there and I keyed all that, the kind of darker purplish gray around that black so that I could then come up and meet what I'd already painted. It's just basically marrying the foreground with the distance. I'll jump around. I'm not one of these painters who just starts with the background, the sky, and comes forward. I think you should move around and kind of work on the whole. So anyhow, this tutorial lesson is, it's like an hour and a half, and it is in real time. So I give a live commentary and I show all the color mixing and talk about it. And I feel like it actually turned out to be a really good lesson for learning how to paint distance. Another interesting thing is, if you look at the photograph reference up in the top left, there's this little bit of the valley floor with some rivers. It's probably hard to see because the image is kind of small, but there's this little bit of light, but because it's so foggy and it's so far away, it's such a subtle difference in color, but the value is the same. So this is important. You'll see here in a second how I basically change the pool into a warmish kind of green and add that in. So what I'm doing with the brush right now is just, I like to blend in the distance. I don't like a lot of brush strokes, so I'm blending everything out. I end all of my blending brush strokes with these downward strokes that you see. The downward strokes get all of the glare out so that it doesn't dry with a big sideways brush stroke ruining the effect. All right, so now see how right into that big pool, I just shifted it into a yellow. That is so that you can control the value and make this yellow the same value. Because if you squint your eyes and look at the photo, that little bit of green in the distance, it disappears. Why? Because it's the same value. So if anything, I'm probably painting it a little bit too dark, but I'll blend it out here and it'll blend right in. And then at the end of this short time lapse, you'll see the almost finished painting where I put in those little details of the river, light hitting the river. So right now I'm just doing a little bit of lightening and modeling. Always adjusting everything as you paint. One of the things I teach at the online art school is to always be adjusting everything. You have to be willing to change everything. Even if you paint something that you think is great, it might be the thing you need to change most that's keeping the painting from achieving greatness, right? So you're constantly evaluating. I also think it's worth pointing out right now that I do online one-on-one mentorship, and I have an opening right now. So there's a 6 people limit, and one person dropped out, so I have one spot open on the Patreon. And with mentorship, I get to work one-on-one with you through Zoom or video call. And it's a great way to really improve your skills. I can create lesson plans with you and just, find where your deficits are. And then I actually create videos and create assignments for you to tackle those deficits and improve your skills. So I figure that's worth pointing out. You can find all of this on patreon.com/DevinMichaelRoberts. All right, so right now I'm actually keying in the rock. I paint my rocks at first a lot lighter than I probably needed to, but you'll see at the end I darken everything up. So I took that off because it was too light of a blue. And here we're getting towards the end now. But you can see the rocks are a little bit too light. And I darkened them a little bit, but also when this dried, I went back in and I glazed over those rocks just to darken them and help them, look in the foreground a little bit more. The focus of these rocks was how to paint all that detail simply. So I feel like it's a really good lesson for managing a lot of detail. All right. Thank you for watching, folks, and be sure to hit that subscribe button here on YouTube. You can also subscribe to me on Patreon.